All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, a central idea I've tried to hammer home here on the show over the last several years is what the media tells us divides us, which is race, has never actually mattered less in modern American history. It's not class either, although I wish it was. It's almost all education, whether you have a 4-year college degree or not. I've done many monologues now on the subject about what that means, but since it's a political show, I'll focus on how it manifests with parties. Basically, the best predictor today, especially if you're under 50, of whether you're a Democrat or not, is whether you have a 4-year college degree. The higher up that you go on degrees, like master's and PhD, the more likely you are to be liberal and a Democrat. The same is true actually down the educational spectrum, from PhD to GED to those who don't finish college. Now, what's been interesting in the last few years is not pointing out that trend, since it's very obvious now, but instead to see how it has put pressure on the other major divide in US politics: gender. Gender has always divided Americans. It's mostly true over the years that if only women voted, then Democrats would win. If only men voted, then Republicans would win. This slightly changes if you incorporate marital status and a few other factors, but something recently has changed a lot. It used to be that you could pretty reliably rely on at least young men to espouse more liberal views than their older counterpoints, and more aligned with gender. Now, something basically true throughout modern history. The recent educational divide, though, and especially the population of media with college-educated viewpoints, has now flipped that on a dime, seemingly overnight. Young men, it seems, for the very first time ever in modern American history, are actually becoming increasingly right-wing. A new Wall Street Journal analysis of multiple different data sets finds that young men between the ages of 18 to 29 are becoming astonishingly Republican, and perhaps even more importantly, are diverging significantly from young women and their peer group. For example, when Biden was still in the race, the Journal found that the young men under 30 backed Donald Trump by a majority, with a full 14-point spread in the latest Wall Street Journal poll. That swing is especially astonishing because just 4 years ago in 2020, Biden won young men by some 15 points. So it constitutes a net 30% swing. When you dig down into the issue sets, it actually starts to get very crazy. Take, quote, favoring or opposing major action on climate change. For women, it's a plus 67% issue. For men, it's just plus 32. For legal abortion with women, it is plus 53. For men, just plus 16. For student loans, it's plus 45 for women. For men, plus 2. Allowing kids to pick their gender identity. Women, plus 2. For men, it is a whopping minus 33. For supporting tax cuts, with men, it's a plus 23. With women, it's a minus 20. For building a border wall with Mexico, minus 4 for men, minus 47 for women. So in other words, for some pretty major issues in US politics, the spread in importance and depth of feeling for young men and women is significant. That spread itself and what parties are running on, namely immigration and abortion, explains why both would then trend majorly in both directions. So what does this relate to education? Well, I would point out to you that the student loan question, the reason there's a 40% net difference between young men and women on student loans is it's mostly young women who are going to college. As I have covered here now for several years, many young men at higher rates than ever before are dropping out. Many elite colleges are now running a 2-to-1 ratio of women to men, with the trend only going in an even further polarized direction. As I've covered here a lot, whether you go to college or not really just colors basically everything about you. What music you like, if you like to travel, what TV shows, what movies. But really what I think the difference is that young people also get almost all of their news online and all their entertainment, namely through social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. And the main force at play there is also algorithmic amplification. This explains why there has been a big surge in young female enthusiasm for Kamala Harris. You've got the so-called coconut pill and the memes of Kamala as brat. They have been overwhelmingly politically inclined young women on TikTok and elsewhere. Simultaneously, if you're a young dude, you watch fitness content or the UFC, what are you seeing pop up? Things like Jake Paul's Trump endorsement or Logan Paul's Trump interview, Trump literally walking out to a massive fanfare at the UFC, and fighters who are constantly talking him up. Both are cultural institutions of men and women who are very young and are polarizing significantly. They consume very different media, they care dramatically about different issues, and in the future it could set us up for some very interesting politics, one where men and women of the very same race and probably even the very same class begin to diverge their votes. I've spoken at length here about how I think the social consequences of this will likely be bad, but at this point all we can really say is that the ball is now clearly in motion, and the future will be, I guess, interesting if this trend continues. So I was fascinated by this, Krystal.
Hey guys, obviously I had a lot of thoughts on what Saagar had to say there. So if you want to see my thoughts on this monologue and every other Saagar monologue, make sure you subscribe at breakingpoints.com.